when you came to me with the idea, I'm like, oh, dude, you're crazy, and we'll give it a try. And I think I eventually said we'll even record these, and if no one else is interested, like internally, we can listen to it, and it'll be kind of fun to hear our ramblings. But
Welcome to 33 Tangents, a roundtable discussion covering a wide variety of topics from digital analytics to working remotely to current happenings in business and technology. Your hosts, Jason Thompson, John Naran, Jen Coons, and myself, Jim Driscoll, all live in different areas of the world but work together in the same company. Our regular day-to-day conversations often go off in various directions, and the goal of this podcast is to share our ideas and find new ways to engage with others.
So what's going on? What's new?
John said he was going to. Now I was confused on your comment. Are you sending me fish sauce, or are you sending me instructions on how to buy better sauce?
Oh no, I mean, I don't think I was gonna send it to you, but I was thinking like next time I bring stuff, I'll bring you something. Maybe I wasn't gonna ship it internationally. I don't think it's worth it for that, but
no. Well, I don't know. I watched. There was an episode of Bizarre Foods where Andrew went to a factory or something. No, he did. He toured a factory and then he went to I think a hotel where they had different types of fish sauce. That's hard to say now. And apparently there is quite the broad spectrum in the quality of the sauce and the taste and the overall effect. But I love I sneak it in so many different things that I make, and no one knows. It just adds this level of depth and complexity to things, you know?
Yep.
And it's really gross how they make it. If you've ever watched the factory tour of a fish sauce factory, but it's
well, that's what I was about to ask. Like, give me some more details on fish sauce. Is it exactly as it is, or is it like duck sauce?
No, I don't know what duck sauce is, but is that like thick, sugary, yummy sauce?
Yeah, like duck sauce is one of the things you usually get with Chinese food, but it's not made of duck. So that's what I'm wondering, is fish made of...
It is. So
okay.
In the most primitive form, it's kind of like making wine, I guess, and there's varying degrees of quality and how you use all the ingredients, but they take usually smaller fish whole, and they'll throw it in a oak bucket container barrel. And heavily salt it, and then put a lid on it with a weight and sit it outside.
And it squeezes it out.
Yeah, as it kind of as it ferments and putrefies a bit, and the weight of it kind of pushes down, it extracts this liquid that I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than that, but essentially that's what it is, and that's what the fish sauce is that liquid that comes off the fermenting fish. So
follow-up stupid question. What do you use it for? Like, what would you use it to dress dishes with?
I use it in lots of food. Yeah, like almost any Thai dish you have probably has it in it. I sneak it in a lot of sauces I make. I put it in some soups and stews that I make. It adds this, I don't want to use the word umami, but that's really what it is. It's like this really depth rounding of flavor that you can't put your finger on. And I've put it in things that you would never think about putting a fish flavor in, and no one knows. Like, they can't say, oh, there's fish sauce in there, but you can taste a before and an after, and it just has this more fullness kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It just makes it a much...
You know what that is? It's umami. That's the flavor. No, really.
I just said that.
Oh, I missed you saying it.
I said I don't want to use the term umami, but
but I mean, you should use it because that's what it is.
That's what it is. So yeah, I use it in a lot of stuff, and apparently my dishes would be even more amazing if I upgraded to something other than the basic stuff I can get in my local grocery. I probably should just go to an Asian market. I'm sure they have more options than the one that I pick up at the local grocery store. But even still, it works for me. I I don't have a lot of experience in tasting a wide variety of fish sauces.
You know what you can add it to?
I'm a cheap date.
If you make if you ever fry chicken, if you add it to that, that's it.
Fried chicken. I don't know that I'm, ever since our Vegas adventure at the Yardbird, I don't know that I can even think about getting chicken or trying chicken. It just is not going to compete.
Try it with the fish sauce.
Yeah, I made something the other day and I added it.
They always do it.
Is it? I make a dish that has, it's kind of like a chicken pot pie, but instead of like actually wrapped in pastry, you dump some biscuit dough on top, and I sneak two things into it. I sneak fish sauce and a little bit of pollen from a fennel pollen into it. And no one can pick out what it is, but it just gives it this amazing rich flavor. So
now, do different kinds of fish produce different flavors? Like, I mean, would I go to an Asian food store and say, okay, there's this flavor of it, I don't just fish sauce?
I don't know enough about it. But yeah, it's just fish sauce. And I think they use like sardines or anchovies or like
anchovies mainly.
Anchovies, like really small, fish. So there's your lesson from someone that doesn't know anything about fish sauce but loves it.
This is half of our podcast is always talking about food.
It's okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No. Food is delicious.
You know, I'm wondering, are there people that just like tune in and listen to the first 5 minutes of us just ramble and then just, forget the actual series topic?
We had Stephen Marshall from East Tennessee State University on a couple weeks ago, and we kind of abruptly just started, and he's like, dude, like I didn't get the whole just rambling intro piece. I really wanted to do that.
So then we got back on the topic of weighted blankets.
Yeah. Because he had a weighted blanket. He's like, I wanted to bond over that. Pretty funny. Yeah. So it's been a year. That's crazy.
It has, yeah. So our first episode went out May 4th of last year. And then this one we'll be publishing this one on May 3rd. So I thought, you know what, let's take a moment and just kind of look back over the last year, because I mean, I freely admit it. Like this whole podcast idea was just a wild ass idea.
I honestly thought you were crazy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, part of me did. Like, there was part of me that was just like, I need to do this. I think it'd be fun. It was just another way of trying to create content, come up with a new content stream for us to share the ideas. And then a lot of it too is just like John and I would get on the phone and just ramble. And I'm like, dude, I bet you there's at least 5 people that if we recorded it would listen to what we had to say. So, but yeah, let's look back over the last year. It's been a fun little ride, and I mean it's not coming to an end anytime soon. But I think it's a good spot to stop and reflect for a moment.
Yeah, and again, it's hard for me to believe that it's been a year that quickly. It feels like we just started it. And to be fair, when you came to me with the idea, I'm like, oh, dude, you're crazy, and we'll give it a try. And I think I eventually said, we'll even record these, and if no one else is interested, like internally, we can listen to it, and it'll be kind of fun to hear our ramblings. But yeah, I was concerned because there's so much content out there. There's so many podcasts. There's audio books. There's every news outlet has a podcast now. It's like, can we really create another piece of content out there? But podcasts are exploding in general, and I think we have a unique perspective and voice. And while we have gotten some feedback of the raw nature of it, and I think someone commented on one of the places where we have the feed syndicated that we need to do a better job of editing and cutting out the blank pauses and kind of, odd transitions. But then someone else said, no, You know, that's why I listen to the show. It's like a conversation I stumbled across, you know, and you don't hear that. So many podcasts are overly scripted and overly produced, and it's like I'm stumbling into a bar and seeing three guys, you know, just kind of sitting at another table over, you know, eavesdropping into some other guy's conversation. It sounds real and natural, and that's one of the things that we're really striving for. And I think it took us a while to get that cadence and find our voice. If you go back and listen to the first couple episodes, they're a little rough around the edges, but I think we've gotten to a good flow.
Yeah, it's amazing that it's been a year for me too. I was also kind of not bearish, but yeah, I wasn't fully bought in necessarily to the idea of the podcast at the beginning. I think primarily because I personally never really consistently listened to any podcast in particular. I think I never really found the attention span to listen to people talk for an hour straight. But yeah, then I don't know. It's I realized I was probably just listening to the ones that didn't really interest me,
Right.
or for whatever reason. So yeah, I'm happy that our personalities resonate with
For sure.
others.
Yeah, and we've grown like month over month. Our our listener counts have kind of grown, and that's awesome to always log in and see that, and a little bit humbling. It's like, wow, these people are really listening to what we have to say.
Yeah.
And we have a handful of pretty diehard fans, which is awesome to see, you know, that happen, and, you know, sharing our content. So like really super appreciate that. It's been fun. We've changed platforms, we've run into technology problems, but it's been a really good learning experience. For me, one of the biggest things that I think we did right in the very beginning, and I think it was your kind of push, Jim, was we have to have a cadence and we have to stick with it. And I don't think we've missed a Friday publish, have we, in the year?
No, we haven't. Now, back over the Christmas and New Year's holidays, just with everything, we re-aired two previous shows. And I think it was good too. We went back into the archives and grabbed two that we had earlier on as the listener base was growing. I think it was great to refresh from that. But no, we haven't missed a publish on a Friday. Every week we have some kind of new content coming out.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately key, because I mean, let's face it. I mean, we want to share content, but this is one of many things each of us is doing in a given week.
Yeah,
and it's easy for this to be seen as secondary, as less important, or I'll get to it when I can. And then that's when you're publishing, say, something on an irregular basis. And that's the one thing with podcasts that I think I listen to regularly, is when I know that there's some kind of new piece of content coming out on let's say a specific day or time of the week or something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful, and I appreciate you kind of helping us stick to that schedule. And it's not always easy, but man, over a year we've kind of consistently done that, and I think it's been really good. I wanted to go back to my previous point I mentioned, and so Tom Miller, Neil Shapiro, those guys have been amazing fans and have consistently shared out our podcast. So I wanted to give them a shout out, and I know there's lots of other listeners that are listening every week. So I just wanted to say we definitely appreciate everyone listening. Again, when we started this, we didn't think anyone would be interested, and the fact that we even have a handful of loyal listeners is really humbling for me. What did we learn about the kind of format? So we've had this as the core group. We've brought in other kind of guest appearance speakers from 33 Sticks, and then you know, about once a month or so we've tried to have a guest from the outside. What have we learned from that? Is that working? What are we trying to do there?
What I found is it's best on on average. Maybe every now and then we'll have more, but it's best to keep it to 3 people. And then kind of shuffling through various lineups. So the reason I say 3 people is I found like when we've had more than that, what happens is people start talking over each other. We quickly run out of time because there's another thing I want to talk about in a bit is the length. And to John's point, like, yeah, it's sometimes hard to listen to people talk for an hour and a half or something like that, unless it's like a really gripping topic. That's why I also like to try to keep it to 45 minutes. Try to, give everyone the high sign about 35, 40 minutes in so we can start to wrap things up. Because I think if we go longer than that, we ramble and we just start to lose the audience after that. But kind of going back to the format, in order to give everyone time to contribute their thoughts on the broad topic that we present each week. That's why I like to keep it to 3, but then we shuffle people. We shuffle the lineup from week to week at times to bring in different perspectives. So it's also not the same 3 voices. It's not an echo chamber every week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've liked having the outside guests. It's been fun to break it up, and just from a reach standpoint, it seems like we bring a new set of fans when we have someone from the outside in, and that gives us an opportunity to win a few of their fans over. So I think that's definitely been helpful. And one of the things that we've tried to do is, while we have, if you look at our space, there's a few really popular names, and they kind of make the rounds of all of the podcasts, and we've had a few of those on, but we've also tried to reach outside of that and get some unique voices and perspectives, and we're continuing to do that. We have had a couple of our clients come on as guests. We've had Todd from Christian Science Monitor talking publishing analytics, which was really fun, and you did a live in session recording with Adam from Dixon's Carphone.
Yes,
which was a really fun episode when you were over in London.
And it was great. And I told him when Jen and I were going over to visit, I said, I'm bringing the microphone with me, and we need to record a podcast. He's like, I'm game. So we found a nice little corner of the office. So if you go back and listen to that, you do hear some of the din of the office in the background. But we had the microphone in the middle of the table, and just like true to form, we just started chatting, and that was a really fun one because Adam is a lot of fun to work with. Really good guy overall. So that was really good to just be able to sit there and pick his brain. And when we look at the demographics based from the podcast hosting service, the majority of our listeners are in North America. We have been gaining ground, say like in Europe, but since the majority of our listeners are in North America, bringing in perspective of, like, in this case, we were talking about e-commerce in Europe and the UK specifically. I think bringing in that also helps, widen, the topics or like the content that we're providing.
Yeah. And I would love, to get more international guests on. I had someone reach out to me. I can't remember where they're located. I want to say Singapore. I don't know. I don't want to say the name, but they reached out to me and said, hey, we love the culture you guys are building at 33 Sticks. It's really similar to what we're building. Can we have the person that's in charge of our culture on your podcast? I think it'd be an amazing discussion. We tried to get Till on the podcast during Summit Week. It didn't line up, but really would love to get him on at a future date. And if anyone else has recommendations for people in Europe or Asia, we would love to expand our reach and the types of people that we're talking to. I think John's in an interesting location where he's in a kind of a hotbed of nomadic remote workers. We should send him out on assignment and see if we can't get some interesting interviews from Chiang Mai area. I'm sure he wouldn't resist going up to Chiang Mai to record a podcast episode, or maybe he would. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I used to hang with that crowd, but not as much anymore, to be honest.
Yeah.
But no, I think in for the sake of the podcast, I would be happy to do that.
And that coffee shop was amazing.
Yeah, no, there's definitely I've been out in Thailand for the majority of our podcast recordings, which I was going to say may or may not be obvious, but it's probably obvious since we're always talking about food. But yeah, obviously, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things happening on this side of the world with, I guess, yeah, like to your point for the remote work side, but also just the Asian side of the tech ecosystem kind of blowing up at the moment out here as well.
Yeah, so lots of opportunities. What else do we kind of have in store for 2019? I know, we've experimented with a couple different platforms. Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about our experience with the different platforms and what we're looking to do going into this year as far as taking advantage of some of the richer features? And as, again, podcasts they've been around forever, but it seems like more and more people are getting into it. And it's again, my concern was overcrowded market, but it just continues to expand and grow. So what are we looking to do?
So there's a couple things. So I never want to get too comfortable with anything, including this. So just from a production value, definitely want to continue to increase that. So for one example, one of the goals I've set is original intro and exit music for it. Right now, I'm just using some simple GarageBand loops, but have a friend who's volunteered his time. So going to be working with him to produce some original music for the show. But then also platform wise, we're using, so since we're all not in the same room or even in the same state or country even, we're using remote recording tools. The first one we started using was good to get us started, but to the point of trying to make this very conversational and trying to really just get a nice flow down. It was good to get us started, but one of the things I found was because we really couldn't see each other, that's where we were stumbling. There'd be awkward pauses, like waiting for who was going to jump in next. So right now we're piloting a new platform. It's called Squadcast, where they leverage the webcam so you can actually see each other. So you can take advantage of the nonverbal cues. So this way, and just, with the first few episodes of us using this, I definitely noticed a difference as I'm going through and preparing everything to be published. The conversation seems to flow better. But one of the things they're supposed to be, or at least it's on their roadmap that they've mentioned, is for later this year, is not just having the camera there for the audio recording, but actually also being able to record and publish, or well, they don't necessarily do the publishing, but being able to record the video as well. So one of the things I like to do is, even if it's just outtakes or bloopers or something like that, we can also have companion video content to the audio content that we publish weekly. I think, again, just finding ways to make us unique and just show that this is just a few folks getting together to talk about things that we enjoy. We make no bones about it. We enjoy the work that we do. We like sharing our ideas around it, and just finding new ways to share that.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, and I think we've only been using the video feed for the last handful of episodes, but I'm with you. I definitely noticed a change, and maybe it's subtle, but you pick up on it that it's even more of a casual, real conversation now that we can see each other and pick up on those nonverbal cues, except John today because he can't get his camera working. So he's an outlier over there.
I want to reload the page, but
no. Then we lose your audio. But yeah, and we've had our share of technical difficulties, and I didn't want to hide that at certain times, like with various connections and people going down, people losing connection, and the way a lot of these work is there's say a progressive upload going, but then the bulk of the audio really isn't uploaded until after you stop recording.
Yeah.
So if there's an outage midway through, I mean, there's been a couple times we've lost 20, 25 minutes of a show and have to try to stitch stuff together.
Was it just you and I? We were recording one episode and we ended up recording it like 3 times. I swear there was
you, Jen, and I. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was so good, and like it bombed, and like we tried it again, and then I think we finally moved over to like Did we move over to a
WebEx.
video?
We ended up going over to WebEx.
We went over to WebEx to record that session because we just couldn't get it to work. And I'm like, oh, like, can we recreate that magic? Because it was such a good conversation and it completely blew up.
And I think by the third time, it actually sounded definitely a little canned at that point, because it's like, okay, let me talk about it again.
Yeah. What has been your favorite episode? For me, I think the North Star episode was one of my favorite episodes, and not because of the content, but because I was on a rooftop deck in San Diego recording it, and the audio quality wasn't great. I didn't have my Yeti mic with me, but it was such a fun experience to just sit up on that deck and record the podcast and kind of have it be a reflection of how we work. You know, we're flexible and we move around, and it's not going to impact what we have in place. So that was one of my more memorable episodes. I'm interested in what your guys' top episodes were.
For me, actually that same episode was one of my favorites, just for that reason, for the conversation, really. I thought we had a really good discussion about that topic, and it was probably the closest that we got to disagreeing and then coming to some consensus. We usually have problems with that.
Yeah.
But now that you brought up location wise, there was another episode where I was I'm forgetting what episode it was now. But it was I was in Bali that time in Ubud, the co-working space that I kind of dreamt of working from for years. So it was really awesome to be able to just experience that, and then it was great to be able to be on the podcast while I was there. But I'm blanking what episode that was. But yeah, there were a lot of good conversations, I think, and it's definitely hard to kind of consider one a favorite, just because I think we've had so many, like, it's all those little moments, I think, that are really fun for me, like the little back and forth things that we've had.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones with John is, I think you were in Bangkok and you were preparing tea or soup or something, and you weren't on mute. I'm like, what does John have going on over there? And you're like, wait, was I not on mute?
Although funny. All of you have done it on mute. So.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, true.
Just to clarify.
What about you, Jim?
I mean, there's a couple, like you mentioned the episode with Adam, recording that in London, it being in person with Todd up in Boston. Those are always fun. But honestly, the one, and this is one of the early ones, and honestly, they are hard to go back and listen to. But there is one that's maybe episode 2 or 3, and we were talking about, like, how to be successful while working remote, because while it seems like,
I think that was episode 1.
It was episode 1.
I want to say it was.
I thought it may have been like 2 or 3,
but very early.
It's incredibly early. I recorded that from a hotel right outside of Disneyland. I was out in Disneyland for one of the Run Disney events, and I recorded that in the morning. I went. I think it was the day I ran the 5K, I think, and then came back to the hotel, got cleaned up, and we recorded that. And then I went and worked from the Starbucks right outside of Disneyland. So that's one. Again, we talk about, like, location and being able to kind of record on the fly.
Yeah, I was. I'm gonna have to go back and look. I want to say it was the very first episode, but I'll go back and look. Yeah, it was a fun one. I'm just looking at our statistics right now, and some of them obviously have more of a chance to age than others, but I don't even think it's close. Ben, the episode we had with Ben Gaines from Adobe is our top most downloaded episode ever.
Mm-hmm.
He must be popular. Sweet Ben. Yeah, that was a fun one too.
That was a good one.
I'd love to see a histogram of ours using, like, filler words like
Anyway, we've talked about that, right? As I've gone back, and one of the things that I've been doing is I go back every Thursday morning, I go back and listen to the episode that publishes on the next day on Friday. And I'll go through and kind of document things that we mention, and if I can link out to additional content, or if we mention something, kind of include that in a write-up that we publish on our blog post or our blog. And I noticed that I notice it more for me than anyone else, but we all do it. And I can't remember what the one that I say a lot is, and now I have like a mental blocker where I'm trying not to say. I think it's like. Is it like? I don't know. Or I think I say something over and over again, and it really bugs me when I go back and re-listen to it. But we're so many episodes in, like there I go. Like the first few episodes were really, really challenging for me to go back and listen to my own voice. But it doesn't bug me anymore. It just is okay. And I think it's just the repetition of having gone back and listened to every episode we've done at least once that I'm okay with hearing my own voice at this point.
Yeah, I
think that was. Yeah, John.
Oh, sorry. See, I did that because I didn't have a camera, but I was gonna say I do think that this has been a huge growing experience for all of us. I know for me personally too, just in terms of speaking coherently, probably in a podcast kind of format.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, getting started, like one of the biggest hurdles in just getting started was the whole concept of having to go back and hear myself talk. I cannot stand the sound of my own voice either. And so we had recorded some content, and then one thing led to another. It was delayed. But I mean, one of the things looking back at it was I just didn't want to listen to it to piece, all of the files together to actually upload it so that it would publish. And because that's the thing, like Jason, like you kind of do a listen through and here's the notes. But what I do is I take the files, pop them into GarageBand, and then listen through and take out some like weird sounds here if there's any kind of background noise. But
soup,
yeah. But the whole that's been, John, you mentioned like a learning experience. It's being able to like be comfortable, like okay, you may think you sound weird, but everyone is used to hearing you like this. Just get over it and put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. All right, I went back and pulled up all the episodes, and Successfully Working Remote was episode number 1.
Okay.
May 4th, 2018. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still, I mean, and obviously it's had the time to age, but we had probably 4 listeners, and 3 of them were us at that time. So,
Yeah.
But the remote stuff is interesting because that crowd picks it up and shares a lot. So if you mention remote in any post or podcast, it just automatically gets picked up and distributed quite a bit. But it was a good episode, even though it was our very first and very raw. You know what? I'm going to go back and I will link it up in the show notes on this episode, but I'm going to go back and re-listen to it to see how far we come. I think it's good to appreciate the growth that we've made by going back and hitting up some of those older episodes.
Yeah. And I think, another thing, learning from it, because with some of those, I kind of came in with a whole list of notes and, trying to keep it structured and an intro and stuff like that. And it just, it sounded too, what's the word I want to use? Put on. It seemed too fake, too artificial.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, okay, I pose a few questions, like, when we schedule the time, and here's the topic we want to talk about. And then that's how we came to just like the random ass conversation at the start is let's just kind of like talk about something and then segue into our main topic for the week.
Which then pivoted into John and I trying to purposefully trip you up in the segue from our ramblings to the actual topic for the week.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. That is a lot of fun.
You need to make a montage clips of the segues.
That would be fun. Quick hitter on all Jim's segues from our ramblings to the topic. Yeah. Well, it's awesome. I'm going back through now and looking at all the episode titles from our old episodes. Some good stuff in there.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to go back and repeat some of them right away, but I think now that we've kind of really gotten this whole thing down, because one of the things too, if you go back and listen to some of the early episodes, we would just be chatting when we'd all log on. Then the minute we hit record, we all just froze up and we became too stiff.
Yeah.
One of the things
We're on
like
stage.
to do,
the spotlight is on us.
Exactly. We would become too, a little bit of stage fright, believe it or not, kind of kicked in. And now that we've kind of gotten more relaxed, we've gotten more comfortable. There are a few topics that I'd like to go back and revisit. Maybe not yet. Maybe in a few more months. Like I'd like to talk about the remote thing again, just because that's always a battle that's being fought. Out there in the business world, you're either 100% pro remote or 100% in the office. There's no in between.
Yeah, we should definitely hit on that. And just a note for future episodes. Yesterday, I can't remember what I tweeted. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up. Awkward pause here while I look for it. I tweeted something out yesterday. And the Utah Lieutenant Governor grabbed my tweet and said, somewhat related, the state's moving a bunch of agencies to kind of flex telecommuting. And he said, we've seen a 22% increase in productivity from those in the pilot program. And that kicked off this whole other conversation where a guy named Paul Hill from Utah State University, my alma mater, jumped in. And Utah State has a grant from the state of Utah to build a program called Remote Work, USU. Mm-hmm. And it's a 1-month training program. And if you live in one of the outlying remote rural communities in Utah, it's free of charge. And it's this program to teach people about remote work and how they can pivot from maybe industries that are dying in their area to remote work and not have to move to the city. They love their area, but get more in line with a knowledge-based job. Anyway, I'm thinking about taking the course just to audit it and see what it is. I think we should have them on because it is such a cool concept of using remote to provide jobs to rural areas. Sorry, I know that's not what we're talking about today, but you just reminded me of it.
No, that's good, because I was going to ask you, what do you think the odds of the Utah Lieutenant Governor coming on?
Dude,
do you think we might be able to score that one?
I'm going to tweet him right now.
Because I would love it. So while you're tweeting him right now, like I'm about halfway through paternity leave, and just again continuing to get adjusted. And I get it; it's something everyone has been through at some point. So I know it's nothing new. But one of the things I want to do, while the baby's napping at times, is sit down and really kind of plan out the next several episodes. So and I have for the next year, I've set some stretch goals and some guests I want to get, which I'm not going to reveal. I'll keep those to myself at the moment. But if he picked up your tweet, maybe we can see if get him on for an episode to talk about remote work.
I'm tweeting him right now. We'll see if he responds.
Another kind of interesting idea for future episodes. Now that we've been doing this for over a year, I thought would be maybe it sounds boring, but to revisit some topics that we touched on that might be I don't know, to see like maybe if our views have changed, or if we were talking about like an industry, to see what may have changed in the last year. I think it'd be kind of interesting to revisit some older topics too, similar to like actually episode 1 even about remote life, as we've been kind of a little bit more experienced with it now than we were at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I like that idea as well. This way, kind of going back, refreshing them, without completely like recycling them.
Mm-hmm. All right, tweet sent. Sweet. That would be amazing. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. That's going to be a challenge if we can make that happen.
It would, but I mean, that would be a major milestone if we're able to secure an interview like that.
Yeah. And I know he's like really he's really passionate about it and has a lot of ideas and things that they're looking to do at the state level. So fingers crossed. All right.
Yep. Cool.
That was not intended to be part of this episode, but that's the way we roll around here.
Yeah.
Should encourage everyone to make phone calls to him.
But no, I've seen you tweet him in the past, and it seems like he's very open and
yeah, we've had several
trying to be out there.
He's an amazing lieutenant governor. We don't see eye to eye on a lot of different issues, but man, I respect the hell out of him, and he's so connected to the people and easy to reach, and he's so communicative on Twitter. And yeah, we've had several discussions on Twitter over the years, so
sweet.
We shall see.
I guess maybe to start wrapping things up right now, just kind of our wrap up our ramblings about the last year and kind of what we've done. Like, I guess I maybe see like what's like the one thing you can walk away with, like the one major learning that you can walk away with, and like one of the things and one thing where you'd like to see us kind of take this next.
Oh man. I don't know. So I would, from where would we want to go next? I would definitely love for us to continue to kind of grind through it, to continue to grow out our base. I would love to get us a bigger audience and more interaction. To me, that's what I'd like to see next. Because right now, and I don't know if you guys hear from individuals that listen to the show or not, but there are a few people that I hear from that talk about the show and give feedback, and that's really, really great. But for the most part, we don't know. We throw it out there. We see the statistics. We see the downloads growing and the subscriber count growing, which gives some kind of feedback. But this year, I would really love to create some kind of connection, broader connection with our audience. So there's more interaction. So they're helping to give feedback on how to make it better. What we should be talking about, ideas for topics and guests. I would love to kind of curate a much more communication with our listeners. And I don't know what that looks like, but that's definitely where I'd like to see us go next. As far as what I've learned, for me, it's just being comfortable and being comfortable in the fact that we have something to add. And to me, that was the hardest part. And it's something I still struggle with. I posted, and sorry, Jim, I used the birth of your son to post the message on LinkedIn about part of our internal culture. And someone,
no, go for it.
Someone commented, "You should write a book." And I'm like, we haven't done anything that gives me the right to write a book. But then there's a new guy that has shown up recently in my LinkedIn feed that's everywhere, and he's really engaging to listen to, and he's fun to listen to, but he's like 22. He lives at home with his parents. He's not done anything really. He has a few ideas for businesses he's kicking around, and he gets on LinkedIn a couple times a week and is completely comfortable giving advice on how to run businesses and do things. I'm like, wow, like this kid's got some, like he's so comfortable doing it. He really hasn't done anything. It's like we've been around, we've experienced a lot of things. We've worked with a lot of amazing clients and learned a lot of things. And for me, that was my biggest learning, is that I need to be comfortable that we have accomplished a lot of great things, and we should be comfortable talking about that and sharing those experiences with others, because it is really helpful, and people do seek out that experience and want to hear about it. So that's my takeaway and where I'd like us to go next.
That's a really good one. Wow, I almost want to steal that as what I will say as well. Like, it's always been a challenge for me to really get out of the weeds, I think, when executing on projects or doing whatever with work, and kind of making those kind of larger connections and just like those overall themes of what we've experienced or learned. So I think this podcast has been a good forum to kind of start thinking down those lines as well. Yeah, that was a really a good one.
Man, that was a good mic drop moment for me. I should have gone last.
Yeah.
What about you, Jim?
So like the one learning over the last year is, so I have a fear of criticism. I have a fear of like putting stuff out there that people are going to rip apart. I part of it is just being a perfectionist. I want to put something out there that's perfect, that everyone's going to love, but it's coming to grips with the fact that there's going to be critics. There's going to be people that are going to nitpick, and whether it's the filler words or getting tongue tied. I mean, I'm not the smoothest of talkers. I absolutely get tongue tied and try to say two different things at the same time. It's getting over that fear and just putting yourself out there, and just knowing that, hey, people are going to criticize, but you know what? I'm finding that more and more more people do and enjoy what we put out there.
Yeah.
But in the next year, I want to kind of work and incrementally improve the production value. Whether it's continuing to experiment with the new recording platform that we're on right now, making sure that we're putting out some really good audio quality. I want to tweak certain parts of the show that goes out to refresh them and clean them up, and honestly, just never be like, be happy with what we're putting out, but also never be completely satisfied, and trying to find ways to improve it. And part of that too is trying to find some more interesting guests to bring on to help broaden our viewpoint. So I'll throw it out there, like any other like-minded people that have their own show, definitely hit us up. We can do some form of a swapcast and introduce each other's audiences to the other group. I'll definitely put that out there. I'd love to be able to do a few of those in the coming year.
Yeah, that would be fun. Cool. This has been fun. And again, I'm shocked that it's been a year. But I really look forward to recording these every week. And again, Jim, appreciate you being the driver and the force behind making this happen. And John, thank you for agreeing to be part of it. I think we've developed quite a good little rapport here for our weekly recordings, and I really enjoy it. And so I definitely appreciate you guys being part of it. And again, I appreciate everyone that listens. And you mentioned critics. That's great. That just means that people are listening. So, and I don't take it for granted that it's a good chunk of time that people are dedicating and not only listening, but willing to share and talk about what we're talking about. It's really amazing to see. I'm really hopeful that we continue to grow this and continue to have a positive impact for people.
Yeah, same here. Definitely appreciate those that take the time to listen, and please rate, review on whether it's iTunes or the Google Play Store, wherever you're able to subscribe. We would love to hear some more feedback. Again, as one of my focuses in the coming years to continue just to improve the quality, the topics, everything about the show. And yeah, this has been a ton of fun. This is definitely one of the highlights of the week, is sitting down chatting about this and then piecing it together. All right, guys. Well, appreciate the time this week, and we'll go ahead and wrap up for now.
Awesome. See you guys next week.
All right. See ya.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to reach us, you could do so by emailing podcast@33sticks.com or on the web at www.33sticks.com. The 33 Tangents podcast is a production of 33 Sticks.